Listen, thank you very much for inviting me down here. If you want to know about me, check my website. I mean, you did it. And you did a terrific job on it. And that's how I met Gabriel. And and Gabriel then said, you know, we're trying to build a pretty big company here. We're very ambitious. Now, look, I could go to a lot of places, but when somebody says he wants to build a great company, that got my attention. And so I said, well, he said, I wanted you to talk about how you treat clients, how you win new business, right?
Right.
And what I've learned. Now, let me tell you how I started in this whole thing. And by the way, if along the way you don't understand anything or there's something else you want me to talk about, just raise your hand or don't just yell, because this is not a speech, this is a conversation. I got involved in this whole thing. I ran this big agency, and I worked for a guy called David Ogilvy, who was at the time the most famous advertising man in the world. He was a creative genius. But even though everybody acknowledged him as a creative genius, and he really was very, very famous in the 50s and the 60s, he was an instinctive leader, and he built an institution. And I think that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to do good work for your clients using creativity, using your knowledge, using technology, but you really want to build, and you want to work for a winner. You want to be a great company with great people, with terrific clients. The place will come and give you, and to expand in sensible ways. And so I got to take 3 to 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and tell you a little bit about Ogilvy, because he didn't go to have any MBA. He didn't even finish college. He was born in England. He basically dropped out of Oxford, and came from a pretty good family. But what does he do after dropping out of Oxford? He becomes a chef in the best kitchen in Paris, a sous chef. And the thing about David Ogilvy is that he didn't learn from schools or things like. He was a lousy student. He fought with the teachers all the time. He learned from experiences and he learned from people. So he worked for this great kitchen, Michelin, top Michelin stars in Paris at the time, and here he is dressed in his white chef's uniform, and these Frenchmen are throwing food at each other and everything else. But he learned, how does the head chef keep these hot-tempered cooks under control? He learned leadership. And then he also learned standards. So one day, Monsieur Pitard, the chef, said, he looked at something Ogilvy had done. He said, my dear David, what is not perfect is bad. High standards. So he wasn't going to be a chef all of his life. So he ends up selling cooking stoves in Scotland. These high-end cooking stoves called Aga cookers. They're all over Europe. Very expensive stoves. Selling them door to door to Scottish housewives at the depths of the Depression, and he became their best salesman. And what he learned out of that, he said, I'll tell you what I learned out of that. He said, no sale, no commission, no eat. He became a salesman. He said, the purpose of advertising and promotion is to sell. So so everything he did, is it going to sell or not? And he was so good at it, the company asked him to write a manual for their other salesmen. Well, it's unlike any other sales manual you've ever seen. It said things like, this is talking to other salesmen, the Aga cooker is very economical. It only burns so much fuel per week. It will not burn more than that, no matter how stupid or lazy or inefficient the cook is. If more fuel is being consumed, it's being stolen, and you should call in the police immediately. I mean, that's the kind of guy he was. So he wasn't going to do that all the time, but he learned how to be a salesman. And he came to the U.S., and he worked for George Gallup, the researcher, the pollster, presidential pollster, public opinion pollster, and he did polling work in the movie business in the 1940s. And he learned about research. So he didn't just rely on instinct, he believed in studying what went on before. So research is one of the important things in his life. He became such a good researcher that the Advertising Research Foundation every year still gives an award called the ARF David Ogilvy Research Awards for the best use of research, using research in consumer research in advertising. Then came World War II, and he went to work for a guy who actually was the model for James Bond in the 007 movies, Sir William Stevenson. And after the war, what unlikely thing did he do? He became a farmer in the Amish country of Pennsylvania. And he didn't learn anything there, except he wasn't going to be a farmer. But he went to the library every night, and he studied and he read. And at the age of 38, never having really worked in advertising, he opens an advertising agency in New York, competing against the big agencies of the day. He's 38, and within 10 years, he's the most talked about person on Madison Avenue. How did he do this? What did he do? It's an extraordinary story, and he built this institution, that 20 years after he died, after the agency was taken over in a hostile takeover by WPP, this monster communications group, Ogilvy is still there with his name on the door. A lot of the culture has been eroded a bit by, the tough market and by the new owners, but enough of it is still there that it's an extraordinary achievement. I said I'm not going to talk about his creative work. He created the Man in the Hathaway shirt with his eye patch, sold out every shirt in New York overnight. One ad in the New Yorker. He did advertising for Rolls-Royce, most famous headline in the car business. At 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise in this new Rolls-Royce is the sound of the electric clock. He did advertising for Come to Britain ads and got tourism in Britain. And there are a bunch of, he basically created Dove soap, his biggest success. And that's a longer story, I'll tell you if you want. But Dove he really positioned Dove, it's one quart of cleansing cream, doesn't dry your skin the way soap can, made it into the #1 cleansing brand in the world. A lot of people think that the best ad he ever wrote was none of those. It was an ad called How to Run an Advertising Agency. And it ran one time in the New Yorker, in the Wall Street Journal, full page, with principles that apply to any business, not just an advertising agency. We were getting requests for reprints 10 years after it ran. And I have discovered over a period of time that the things I learn in a professional service business, because that's what you're in, that's what I was in, it's a professional service business, they're all about the same. All these organizations work around the same. When I left the advertising agency, I went to work for a while at Price Waterhouse as an advisor, and I got involved in a new business pitch for them. And they showed me this pitch for a bank. And I said, I don't know anything about Price Waterhouse. I don't know anything about accounting. I don't know anything about banking, but you lose. They showed me the presentation. I said, everything I've learned about new business, you violated. So I kind of rewrote their little executive summary, and they won the account, and I did that 5 or 6 times. The same principles work in a lot of these professional service businesses. And let me try to figure out how I can give you a sense of them. By the way he communicated, the way Ogilvy created, I spent my whole career there, so I'll try to underplay it, but it wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. For example, one day all the directors came to a meeting, and in front of them they had a set of these Russian nesting dolls, the Marioska. How do you pronounce that, Olga? The Marioska, the one inside, the smaller one. And Matryoshka. And he said, open them. So the directors opened a big doll, a smaller doll. Inside, around the smallest doll, he had put a little piece of paper, and it said, If we hire people who are smaller than we are, we'll become a company of dwarfs. If we hire people who are bigger than we are, we'll become a company of giants. That's how we'll become a great agency. Hire people who are better than you and pay them more than you if necessary. That's how we're going to build a great agency. Well, if he had said, go out and hire better people, we'd all say, yeah, we've got to get some more better people around here. But nobody, and they'd forget it 10 minutes later. Nobody forgot the Russian dolls. The principle stood there. Another thing he did was he very much believed in training, which he learned from McKinsey. He studied, he got himself introduced to Marvin Barr, the guy who built McKinsey, and he made training a major issue, which we didn't, and so we had training programs for people who just joined the agency, people in creative, people in media, people in research. We did training for people in the financial area, and we did it. We didn't hire a lot of outside experts, one or two maybe, but basically the senior people in the company were expected to be the trainers. And if you weren't training people, who's going to train them? So that's one of the ways we evaluated people for promotion. We said, if you're not participating in our training program, and this person is trained, so we evaluated people, do they contribute to the agency beyond taking care of their clients? He built a culture. People loved working at our place. It was totally non-political in every way. He said, get rid of all office politicians. If somebody, no paper warfare, no prejudice for anything. Now we're talking about back in the 50s, when there was a lot of prejudice, a lot of discrimination. He said, I refuse to play that game. He said, make sure you have an agency that has fun. And he said, the great research laboratories, the people there, the scientists, the great ones, they're always playing practical jokes on each other and things like that. It shouldn't be grim. Have fun. Well, I mean, we really took that quite seriously. He didn't do that much, but he was a very funny guy, and he was fun to work for. But one day my boss took our conference table, and he had a ping pong table built on top of it. And when the clients came in, we took off the ping pong table, we had the meeting, and at noontime or in the evening, we had a ping pong, or weekends, because we worked a lot of weekends. We had a ping pong table there. We had a touch football game with our client, the Maxwell House division. It was called the Budget Bowl game. And we used to beat them all the time until we started hiring women before they did. So, our staff did what? Put an enormous effort on people. That was probably the distinguishing thing about our agency. Nobody would hire people from us who we wanted to keep. And it wasn't money. We didn't pay the most money. People thought they were working for the best agency, which treated them honestly, paid them fairly, no favoritism, wouldn't hire relatives, wouldn't hire relatives of clients, even if we thought we wanted their business. They knew it was completely open. And we gave an award. We were big on giving awards to each other for recognizing things. So one year we gave an award called the Jules Fine Award, which you give every year. Because the top people were always getting, the top creative people were getting recognized. But the people who were running the library and things like that, they weren't being recognized. So we called it the Jules Fine Award for professionalism combined with civility. Professionalism. And so people who were just, running the lower levels of the company could get one of those awards. And what do? I think we gave them $5,000 or something like that, and acknowledged them at our annual staff meeting in front of everybody. So we knew they knew we cared about people. Let me talk a little bit about clients and new business. without without clients, there's no business. And we had 2 or 3 principles when we went to work for a client. The first one was they had to make a product or service we admired or respected. We wouldn't work for a product that we didn't think was an appropriate product. We wanted to work with a client who we liked working with. We wouldn't work with bullies, people like that who would, treat our people badly, because they would leave. And you're eventually going to lose the account anyway, so make sure you have somebody who you'd like to work with. And they should want us to make a fair profit over time. Sure, we'll invest at the beginning in a startup, but over time, if we're not making a fair profit, we better get out of there and face up to that early. New business, we found year after year after year, 60% or more of our new business in a given year came from current clients. That's an important principle. Came from current clients. By doing a great job for a client, what happens? Well, that person that client might have other assignments to give you. They might move in a big company, move from division to division. They might move from country to country. And very few people spend their whole lives working for one company, so they go to another company and they say, let's get Ogilvy or get someone in here. We did a great job on the General Foods account. There used to be a company called General Foods many years ago. And those people went out and went to join Cheeseboro Ponds. We got their business. We did a terrific job for American Express. And Lou Gerstner, who was then running the the card and traveler's check division, Lou Gerstner later on went to IBM. By the way, with him, we built American Express into our largest client in the world, doing great advertising, 4 or 5 campaigns at a time, great service and everything else. And so he joins IBM as chief executive. And he says the first day, he said, now who's our agency? And they said, well, actually, we have 20 of them. He said, fire them, all of them. They said, well, some of them are doing good. He said, no, fire all of them and see if Ogilvy can take on our business. And he handed us, by the way, I was gone from the agency by then. I had no part of this except I helped build the American Express account. It was announced that it was $700 million with a simple presentation saying how are they going to staff the account and things like that. No competition. Now, that American Express account at Ogilvy, the IBM account at Ogilvy, and now, I'm told, is over $1 billion. Around the world, many services, advertising, direct marketing, digital marketing, public relations, promotion in 40 or 50 countries. So those are big stakes. The principle out of that is to treat every client as your best new business prospect. You're going to get most of your business that way. Now, in the new business presentations, we found a couple of other things. We put together a terrific presentation. Here's our advertising, and here's our principles, and here's our offices, and here's how smart we are, and here's all these terrific people. And now we've done a little bit of thinking about your business, and and at that point, they would wake up. We said, wait a minute, why don't we start there? So we start off by saying, we're happy you're here. We're not experts in your business, we're not. But we've gone out and we've talked to 50 people or 30 people. And we've asked them about your product, and we've asked them about your competitor's product. And we don't have any definitive things, but we've learned a few things about your business. And we have some preliminary creative ideas just to give you a sense of how we think. And if you did this, and by the way, here are the offices and services and advertising that we have to make it happen. We flipped it. And the principle there is talk about them, not us. What do you need? How can we help you? These are really simple principles. And